So, what if there was a third way between capitalism and communism? Well, today we're going to explore something called PROUT, the progressive utilization theory. It's a pretty radical vision for society, dreamt up by its founder, Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. So let's jump in and break down what it's all about.
Right off the bat, the theory throws a challenge at a very common idea: equal wealth for everyone. Sarkar calls this a dazzling ostentation, basically a promise that sounds amazing but is ultimately just for show. And his reasoning is pretty straightforward. The world only has so many resources. So promising everyone an identical slice of the pie, he argues that's just an impossible goal from the get-go.
You know, that critique brings up a huge question, right? If the idea of equal wealth is a dead end, then what's the alternative? How do you build a society that's actually fair and sustainable for the long haul?
Right. So for you listening at home, we are unpacking a text by P.R. Sarkar titled Universal Progress Through Minimum Requirements and Maximum Amenities. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We want to completely challenge the definition of the word progress. Because if we follow the logic in this blueprint, modern society is basically running a race toward a finish line that doesn't actually exist.
That is the core argument right there. We tend to think progress is just having more stuff or a higher GDP. But Sarkar argues that true progress is about efficiency. Specifically, it's about freeing humanity from the daily grinding struggle of survival so we can become something entirely different.
So let's set the stage a bit. The text opens with a very specific critique. It takes a hard look at communism, which at the time this was written was the dominant alternative theory, and it just absolutely tears it apart.
Oh, it doesn't hold back at all. Sarkar describes the communist promise of equal wealth as a dazzling ostentation. He even uses a term that I frankly think we should bring back into common rotation. He calls it bogusism.
Bogusism. I love that. It sounds like something a grumpy grandfather would say, but there's a serious point behind it, right? Like, why exactly is the idea of equal wealth bogus, according to the text?
Well, it comes down to basic physics and resource management. The argument is that mundane resources, physical matter, are limited. The worth is finite. You physically cannot provide equal wealth to every single person. It is a mathematical impossibility. So promising it to people is just political theater. It is building castles in the air.
Okay, so if equal wealth is a dead end because of scarcity, I mean, you obviously can't give everyone a private island. Where do we pivot? What is the PROUT alternative being presented here?
The pivot is to stop focusing on equality of wealth entirely and start focusing on the quality of life. The blueprint proposes two simultaneous guarantees. First, guaranteed minimum requirements for everyone. That is the floor: food, clothing, shelter, medical care, education. But then, this is the part that usually trips people up, guaranteed maximum amenities.
Wait, maximum amenities? That sounds contradictory. If we can't have equal wealth, how can we promise maximum amenities? To me, the word amenity sounds like a luxury. You know, like a hotel with a spa and gold-plated faucets. Is that what we were talking about?
Not exactly. We have to strip away the modern marketing definition and look at the actual etymology. The text points out that amenity comes from the Latin word amenius, which means to fulfill a desire or to make the position easy.
Oh, okay. To make the position easy.
Right. So in this context, an amenity isn't about bling or showing off. It is literally anything that reduces the physical struggle of existence.
That is a very different framing. It is about reducing friction.
Exactly. And here is the key futurist concept. The text points out that these amenities, these things that make life easy, are not fixed. They are ever increasing. Plain living is a moving target.
How so? Can you give an example of that?
Well, think about 80 years ago. In many parts of the world, plain living might have meant walking barefoot with a single piece of cloth wrapped around you. That was acceptable. If you walked into a corporate meeting today barefoot with a towel, would that be considered plain living?
No, that would be a crisis. You would be escorted out of the building immediately.
Exactly. The baseline shifts as society advances. The text uses the history of water provision as the perfect example to illustrate this. Centuries ago, if you wanted water, what did you have to do? You had to dig a well. That is back-breaking, sweaty, caloric-burning physical labor.
Right.
Then maybe your society moved to community tanks. Easier. But you still have to walk there and carry a heavy bucket back.
You are still hauling physical weight.
But today, for most of you listening right now, you just walk into the kitchen and turn a tap. The aim getting water is exactly the same. But the amenity, the plumbing and the pipe, has reduced the physical struggle to near zero. That is the definition of progress in this system, systematically using technology to make the physical act of living effortless.
Okay, I buy that. We want life to be easier. We want the pipes. But here's where I get stuck, and I imagine you listening might too. We have minimum requirements for everyone, but then we have maximum amenities. If we are giving maximum things to people, doesn't that inherently create inequality? Like, who gets the maximum?
This is a major friction point, and it is exactly where PROUT diverges from standard socialism. The text argues that we absolutely must provide special extra amenities to meritorious people.
Which honestly sounds a bit elitist, like the smart people get all the nice stuff. How does the text justify that?
It sounds that way on the surface, but let's look at the mechanics of human motivation.
Yeah.
If you treat a genius, a brilliant scientist, or a highly capable administrator exactly the same as everyone else, what happens? You remove the incentive for them to use those extra capabilities for the good of society.
Oh, you are talking about the brain drain.
Precisely. The text explicitly references the brain drain phenomenon seen in places like India.
Yep.
You have these brilliant minds, but if their extra capacity isn't recognized or supported with special amenities, maybe that is better research facilities, a quiet workspace, or just a more comfortable life that allows them to focus, they leave. They go where they are appreciated.
So the argument is to give them the perks so they stay and build the water pipes for the rest of us.
Right. It is completely pragmatic. You keep that talent serving the collective.
But hold on. What prevents the gap from getting too wide? We see this now in modern capitalism, where you have billionaires building survival bunkers while regular people struggle to pay rent. How does the system prevent that special amenity from just becoming a new tyranny?
That is where the concept of maximum amenities for the common people comes in. This is the check and balance. The text uses a vehicle analogy that explains the strategy perfectly. Imagine a meritorious person has a car, and the common person has a bicycle. There is a gap.
And the usual reaction to that is to say, that is unfair, take the car away.
Right, which is the equal wealth trap. PROU says, no, do not take the car. Instead, society must immediately work to upgrade the common person from a bicycle to a motorbike. You keep the gap to maintain the incentive, but you aggressively lift the floor. And once the common person has a motorbike, maybe the meritorious person gets a helicopter and the common person gets a car.
It is an endless ladder. Everyone moves up, the gap stays there to provide a carrot, but the bottom is never stagnant.
Exactly. The common standard of living is constantly chasing the meritorious standard. And this leads us to a deeper definition of what these amenities actually are. The text splits them into two distinct categories: natural and supernatural.
Supernatural usually implies ghosts or magic. I am going to assume that is not what we are dealing with here.
No, no ghosts here. Think of it as above nature or scientific. First, let's look at natural amenities. The text calls this physical pabulum.
Pabulum, that is a $5 word. Is that a medical term?
It basically means nourishment or fodder for the body. The text gives a very relatable example. Imagine you are sitting on a train. You see someone across the aisle eating a delicious snack. Immediately, your mouth waters. You want that snack.
Oh, I know the feeling very well.
That is a natural physiological longing. It applies to hunger, thirst, basic bodily comfort. The goal of society should be to make satisfying those natural urges as easy as possible. But then we have the supernatural amenities.
So if natural is food and basic needs, what is a supernatural amenity?
A supernatural amenity is derived from science and technology. It is designed specifically to remove stress and strain from the mind. It is about using artificial means to buy peace of mind. Think about a rural farmer. Their entire life is often defined by anxiety. Will it rain? Will a sudden frost kill all the crops? That mental load is incredibly heavy.
It is pure survival stress. It is a constant background noise of worry.
Correct. So a supernatural amenity in this case would be an irrigation dam that guarantees water, or advanced climate control techniques that protect the crops from freezing. It uses technology to remove the worry entirely.
Oh, the text had that wild example about the mustard seeds to explain this, right?
Yes, it mentions a technique of passing smoke from burning wood chips through a mustard seed field to force the flowers to bloom immediately.
Which sounds a bit like alchemy, but I guess it is just early agricultural science.
It sounds odd to us now, but think about the underlying principle. You are using a technical intervention to control nature, thereby removing the uncertainty for the farmer. You are fixing the amenity of a guaranteed harvest. You are using science to eliminate fear.
So if we zoom out, the trajectory here is fascinating. We use technology to make life physically easier. We stop digging wells and we turn taps. We stop praying for rain and we build climate control. But the expert in you, the futurist persona, sees a trade-off here, a biological cost to all this ease over the next century.
There's always a trade-off. And this is where the text shifts from economics to full-blown evolutionary futurism. It predicts that as life becomes easier through these maximum amenities, human physical strength will decrease.
We basically get soft.
We do. The text explicitly states that a day will come when almost everyone will wear glasses. Almost everyone will have false teeth. Our bones will become weaker.
That sounds incredibly dystopian. Usually we think of human evolution as getting better or stronger. Why would we want a system that makes us frail?
Because fitter just means better adapted to your environment. If the environment no longer requires you to trek 10 miles for water or chew through tough roots, your body stops spending precious energy on massive bones and strong jaws. The struggle for daily subsistence disappears, so the physical ruggedness disappears.
So we lose the muscle. What do we get in exchange for that? Why is this framed as progress?
We get intellectual capacity. While the body, the physical container, might become less robust, the content expands. The text predicts the cranium will enlarge. The nervous system will become significantly more complex.
So we are trading muscle mass for brain power.
And not just standard smartness. We are talking about deep intuition. The text compares the African elephant to the Indian elephant. The African elephant is huge, massive body, smaller head, and it is very hard to domesticate. The Indian elephant, smaller body, larger head, and much more intelligent. Evolution favors the shift from physical bulk to intellectual capacity.
I really love that analogy. So in this PROUTist future, we might look quite different. Bigger heads, glasses, maybe we aren't winning any wrestling matches against our ancient ancestors. But what is the ultimate point of that? Why do we want to become weak geniuses?
Because we aren't just becoming weak geniuses, we are becoming liberated entities. The text says clearly that the entire goal of the socio-economic structure is to move from physicality to intellectuality and finally to spirituality.
It is like a hierarchy of needs, but on a species-wide level.
Exactly. By solving the physical struggle, by guaranteeing everyone those minimums and maximums, we free up a massive amount of psychic energy. If you aren't fighting just to eat, you can actually think. If you aren't stressed about the rain ruining your livelihood, you can meditate. The text predicts that future humans will have much more active, efferent nerves.
Efferent nerves. Help us out with the biology there for a second.
Those are the nerves that carry signals away from the central nervous system out to the effectors. But in this philosophical context, the text implies a heightened sensory evolution. It suggests that subtle experiences, intuition, telepathy, spiritual bliss, things we consider mystical or rare today, will become natural and spontaneous for the humans of the future.
That is a massive, sweeping vision. So the economic system exists solely to build the launch pad for this spiritual evolution. But the text doesn't stop at humans, does it? This concept of neo-humanism comes in and severely widens the circle.
It does, and this is absolutely crucial to the whole theory. We cannot just secure minimum requirements for humans. Neo-humanism complements PROU by demanding we extend that guarantee of minimums to animals and plants.
Which seems fair from an environmental standpoint, but the text makes a really startling prediction about the animal kingdom, too. It suggests they are on the exact same track we are.
It says animals are also evolving. It suggests that in 1,000 years, monkeys might reach the intellectual level that human beings are at right now.
Literally Planet of the Apes style.
Well, hopefully much more harmonious than that. But the underlying idea is that consciousness is rising everywhere. Dogs, cows, monkeys. Their vocabulary will increase, their brain function will expand, and because they're becoming more sensitive, we have a moral obligation to include them in our system. The Earth isn't just a cafeteria for human beings.
This connects directly to that shift in human sentiment the text describes, moving from caring about your country to caring about, well, everything.
Exactly. It frames it as an evolution of sentiments as society progresses. First, you have geosentiment, which is an attachment to your specific land or nation. Then you move to socio-sentiment, which is an attachment to your specific human group or community. But the ultimate goal is sentient sentiment.
Sentient sentiment, meaning universal care for all beings that can feel.
Right. That is the required mindset to actually run this kind of advanced system.
It feels like everything we've discussed from this text is about movement. It is about constant speed and pushing boundaries.
Acceleration. That is the exact word the text uses. It says, and I quote, "Acceleration is the spirit of life, the spirit of existence." You can't just reach a comfortable plateau and chill out.
So we can't just get everyone a washing machine and a motorbike and call it a day.
No, absolutely not. There's no stopping point.
Yeah.
You fix the minimum requirements, then you achieve them, then you immediately refix them higher. You provide maximum amenities, then you invent brand new ones. The system demands continuous socio-economic advancement. The text warns that retardation, or even just maintaining your current speed, is essentially death. You have to accelerate.
And this acceleration leads us to two peaks, or what the text calls zeniths, the relative zenith and the supreme zenith. Can you break those two down for us?
Sure. The provision of maximum amenities represents the relative zenith. It is the absolute peak of material and physical comfort. It is important, but it is temporary. Why? Because human desire is infinite. You get the car, you want the plane. You get the plane, you want the spaceship. In the physical world, thirst just creates more thirst.
So you can never actually be fully satisfied by amenities alone.
Correct. That is why it is only a relative zenith. But we aggressively provide those amenities anyway. We provide them specifically to remove the physical distractions so the individual can aim for the supreme zenith.
Which is spiritual fulfillment.
Yes, satisfying that deep spiritual thirst, unification with the cosmic. That is the only thing that actually quenches the infinite longing of the human soul. The economic system manages the relative world perfectly, so you are free to reach the supreme world.
It is such a distinct difference from modern capitalism, which sort of tells you that the car is the happiness, that the amenity is the supreme zenith.
Or communism, which the text critiques for ignoring the human need for that car in the first place. The text makes a really interesting comparison here between Marxism and the Order of Shiva.
The Order of Shiva, that is a deep cut.
It really is. Shiva represents the principle of marching ahead into the future while strictly maintaining contact with present reality. The critique here is that Marxists built castles in the air. They ignored reality, they ignored human nature and the need for incentives, and that led to systemic failure. PROUT claims to be the practical application. It acknowledges we have physical bodies and egos that need incentives, the car versus the bike, but it directs all those drives toward a spiritual goal.
It is incredibly practical spirituality.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We've gone from water pipes and bogusism to evolving monkeys and cosmic unification. As we wrap this up, let's try to synthesize this for everyone listening. If we had to boil this PROUT blueprint down to a checklist, what does the structure look like?
The text actually gives us a perfect four-part summary of its progressive characteristics. If you want to take the PROUT blueprint home with you, it looks exactly like this. First, minimum requirements must be guaranteed to all, no exceptions. Second, maximum amenities must be guaranteed to the common people. We constantly lift the floor.
Right, getting everyone the motorbike. Exactly. Third, special amenities must be guaranteed to capable, meritorious people. We need to reward merit to prevent brain drain and spur progress. And fourth, all three of these are never-ending processes. They must constantly accelerate based on our collective potential.
That fourth point is the real kicker, the acceleration principle. It never stops.
Never. And that leads directly to the optimistic scenario I want to leave everyone with. Imagine society over the next century under this system. A future where the struggle for daily subsistence is completely gone. No one wakes up terrified they can't feed their kids. Because of that, our physical bodies might be a little softer, a little more reliant on technology, but our capacity for intellect, for intuition, and for genuine happiness has skyrocketed.
We aren't fighting to survive anymore. We are living to evolve.
Exactly. And my call to action today, speaking to contemporary society as a futurist, is that we need to adopt these PRE principles immediately. If we want positive acceleration rather than societal stagnation or collapse, we have to start reducing the physical obstacles for intellectual and spiritual development right now. Keep the best of your discussion progressive and optimistic. Keep the tone enthusiastic, positive, and full of energy. Give sufficient examples with critical thinking, suitable analogy and narrative to connect the audience for better understanding of this topic. To make this world a better place for all to live with happiness and justice, know more about PROUT, the progressive utilization theory. Join a PROUT study circle and also join our YouTube channel, Set Vipra's Movement.
Set Vipra's Movement. I highly encourage you listening to check that out. There was one final provocative thought from the text that really stuck with me as we close out. It was about what happens when we finally reach that incredibly advanced future state.
Oh yes, the text says, and this is wild to think about, one day, the physical and psychic structure of human beings will become divine. Human beings will not like this mundane world anymore.
We will be so evolved, our sentience so expanded, that the physical world just won't cut it.
We will lose our fascination with the transitory and merge into the supreme. It is the ultimate graduation of the human species.
Well, until we graduate, we definitely have some work to do here on Earth. Thank you for guiding us through this roadmap today.
My absolute pleasure.
And thank you for joining this deep dive into the future of human potential. Keep thinking, keep accelerating, and we will catch you next time.